There are remote places on this earth that truly surprise the imagination. Places seemingly normal that hide a secret. One of them is located in a small village near the island of Waego in Raja Ampat, the western part of Papua. Here the weather is hot, very humid, and it often rains torrentially. Fortunately, these spells are very short. But the climate alone does not make the difference between one place and another. In his book, the American biologist Jared Diamond attempted to answer a question: why Papuans 2 centuries ago were still in the Stone Age, while Europeans and other Asians had already reached advanced social organizations more than 2 millennia before. A question with no definite answers. It is true that here time seems to pass more slowly. Following kilometers of coastline, entering the maze of its islets and green channels that meander through the labyrinth of mangroves, without seeing a boat, a building, a trace of civilization, it is like stepping back in time. Plant and animal life here are often unfamiliar and primordial. Martina, a sportswoman and famous photographer, when she first came here with her husband and started to dive with Nixon, one of the most experienced guides diving in Papua, she was convinced that this was to become her world. Nixon taught her a lot about these islands, with its strange creatures. But above all, he taught her all the secrets of this sea. A sea that, says Nixon under his breath, must be seen through the eyes of a child, without fear, with attention, admiration, in an uncomplicated way. So Martina and her husband decided to create a tourist village here together with their guide, and she became fond of his grandchildren, Yafet and Fabio, and became their teacher. Underwater is like being in a large aquarium, and the lack of glass boundary between men and fish makes the emotion of these close encounters stronger. It is, very often, large shoals that show curiosity but not fear of the presence of humans. Or of very small creatures, like this dragon shrimp, climbing up a whip coral. Or transparent anchor shrimps which blend with the colors of the anemone with which they coexist in harmony, swaying between its tentacles. It is like the world of a fairy tale, with its curious creatures. Among them is a large turtle she calls rather confidentially Ruga, that detaches with his big horny beak and then devours large chunks of sponge. There are also evil-looking creatures. They remain still, motionless and patient, waiting for some distracted prey to ensnare with a deadly shot. Here, a carpet can really be a shark waiting in ambush. Or a giant stinging an enemy. Not a good idea to touch it with bare hands, as she is doing playfully. The solitary tunicata, resembling a sponge but is more complex, seems to breathe deeply when it feeds, channeling water into its siphon and then spits it out after filtering the food particles. Instead, the pulsating motion of the Xenia octopus. This is not an aid to feeding, as was supposed, but to improve photosynthesis activity. The children, says Martina, are curious and by watching learn more than you might imagine. The variety of shapes and colors of the underwater life fuel the imagination of the observer. This upside-down jellyfish, doesn't it look like a flying saucer landing in the snow? And the little dragonfish, doesn't it look like a sparrow looking for crumbs of bread? And this other one, rather than a trumpet as its name implies, has the front of its snout shaped like a straw, very useful to find hidden prey. As many nudibranchs, this crisscrossed example resembles a large slug. An unexpected whirlwind chase of small and large fish is a sign of the presence of a predator nearby. Hidden in the commotion, a large green moray eel seems to incite his soldiers before a battle. Finally, judging from the Audrey Hepburn eyes and the colour of the lips, this is the most beautiful porcupine fish in Papua. Perhaps we can begin to understand what Nixon and Martina mean, and looking up to the surface, two spacecraft, one white and one black, hovering above us. As we watch the kids run on the beach, Yafet, the eldest, stops and calls us. He wants us to follow him to a place he calls magic. To reach it requires a boat trip of a few hours. Sowanderek is a small village on the island of Mansua, far away from everything. A welcome sign on a dirt road that comes from who knows where. Some young friends of Yafet greet him from the jetty and look at us with detached curiosity. Yafet then enters the water, and in the shallow depths there is an unexpected world. Pastel colours and transparency. Groups of batfish, normally shy and grumpy, here are immobile and proud. Here you can find large numbers of giant clams, a species extinct in much of the Pacific, hunted for food and decoration. Here they are, numerous and undisturbed, just meters from the pier and the beach. They don't even close when touched. Martina, we quickly realize, here speaks to the fish in a strange language, communicating with them in every way, and we are convinced that she can really do it. And the sea, with its extraordinary creatures, large and small, seems to listen and sometimes answer. She, being an instructor, acts as a guide for divers and shares the knowledge she has acquired. In short, she has chosen a life that many of us would like to lead, but that no one has the courage to follow. She tells of a solemn promise made to Papa Japheth, the father of her guide Nixon, just before this charismatic man, much loved by his people, died. A promise that in part concerns the island of Hawaii, in particular the commitment to the protection of biodiversity of the animal species that live here, above and under the sea, and other more closely guarded secrets. Let us think back to that sentence. Look at the sea through the eyes of children. For her to search nearby in the large fans and find microscopic pygmy seahorses, it is child's play. There is a considerable amount of colourful life in the vicinity of the jetty, not more than a few tens of meters deep, and the people of this village, rather than take advantage of these natural resources, trade to buy their basic necessities, so rare here, they proudly preserve the secret of this magic and are content to live with what they have and what little it takes, living day by day. Watching the marine world through the eyes of a child. It seems trivial, but it is the secret of this remote place, the real secret of its integrity and its success, if we are still capable of understanding a success without apparent advantages. Paulina, with her little brother, is proud to live here, is happy and greets Martina, who she has asked repeatedly, how hopelessly, to go to work with her. Later we think back to Mr. Diamond's question about countries with similar conditions and different socio-cultural organizations, and frankly more than the answer, we wonder whether it was the right question to ask in places like this. If it was not, then it is an immense fortune that the Earth has, until now, reserved intact and untouched by progress some of its small segments, when in times like ours, where the association between progress and solidarity or environmental protection seems outdated and obsolete.